Today, I am going to try and give you 30 different exercises you can do to improve your communication skills. Now, I know that sounds incredibly boring. It sounds like something you would do at a company away day, but this involves kink, it involves DS, it involves sex. So I'm hoping, first of all, I'm hoping that's not what you do at your company away days. If it is, then sign me up. What company did you work for? I may need to get a job there. But no, in all seriousness, this is what this podcast is about. I'm going to read out a list of 30 things you can do to improve the communication with your partner, which will lead to better sex, some self-reflection, and it will really deepen the connection you have with your partner. I know that sounds a little bit wanky, let's be honest, but I promise you, connection does equal better sex. I really, really do believe in that. And therefore, it doesn't matter if you're in a DS relationship or if you're into BDSM, most of these exercises will help you. This podcast contains frank discussions about sex, kink, and BDSM. If you're a consenting adult who wants to learn more about these topics, then stay tuned.
You're listening to Chief from kinkyevents.co.uk, helping you create the dom-sub dynamic you've always fantasized about.
So, the aim here is that these exercises kind of build on one another, and I will give you all 30 in order. And the aim is that you would do one a day. Now, I know that is very impractical for most people, so don't think you have to do that. You might want to do one a week. You may want to just pick and choose the exercises that you want to do. That is totally up to you. So take it or leave it as it is. Hopefully there's at least one exercise in here that you will really enjoy. The more you do, the better you will get at communicating with your partner. So here we go. So week one is really the foundation of communication. So day one, the exercise is joint journaling. Begin a shared journal where both partners can express thoughts, feelings, and desires openly. Personally, I recommend you get a Google Doc for this, as it's easily accessible on multiple devices and you can just type in your thoughts and off you go. Exercise 2 is desire mapping. Each partner independently lists their desires, limits, and fantasies. And then you have a discussion to share and explore these things. I recommend you download the sex menu template that I have on my website and fill it in, because that gives you 350 activities to try. If you don't want to do that, that's absolutely fine. You can make up your own activities, but there may be some that you haven't really talked about and some that are a little outside your comfort zone, and having them in a list might spark some things for you that you didn't know your partner was interested in, or you didn't know you were interested in until you found out a bit more about them. If you do download my sex menu list, do follow the guidelines I give on the Kink Events website for best results. I have a whole article on how to fill out the sex menu so that you make sure that you are giving authentic answers. Exercise 3, create safe words. Review or establish safe words and discuss their importance in your dynamic. A very straightforward but important task. How will you know when your partner wants to stop? And remember that sometimes you need a non-verbal safe word as well, because what if they're gagged or and can't speak? Exercise 4, daily check-ins. Start a routine of daily check-ins to discuss feelings, needs, and desires. This could be when you wake up, although personally I'm not a morning person, so that's not for me, but you could do it maybe in the evening before you go to bed or at lunchtime, and it doesn't even have to be in person. It could be over WhatsApp, something like that. Exercise 5 is feedback session. Practice giving and receiving feedback on a recent play session or dynamic related discussion. It's important to understand that what worked and what didn't, because, some things simply won't work. If you've listened to the podcast, you'll know that I have described many of the times that sex or BDSM has gone wrong for me. It happens, we laugh it off, and we move on. And the aim of this really is the more you can talk about sex with your partner, especially if you feel guilt or shame about sharing your desires and you find it difficult to talk about, because a lot of us do, the more you do it, the easier it'll become. Exercise 6, communication games. Play a game where you guess each other's likes, dislikes, and limits to enhance understanding. Now, you can create your own game, but I've got a couple here that you can play. So here's my suggestion. Grab 10 slips of paper and write down 10 BDSM activities each, some you like, some you don't. And then in your head or just on the bit of paper, give them a rating from 1 to 10. 1 being you hate it, would never do it, and 10 being you absolutely love it. And make sure you have a good mix. Don't put them all as 10 or all as 1. Make sure that you find a good mix of activities. Then what you do is you take it in turns with you and your partner to read out an item from your list, and then have your partner guess how you rated it so you can see how well they know you. This creates a good discussion because if they're way off and they get the number totally wrong, perhaps there's an area where you can improve communication or they could learn something about you. And if you get the number spot on, then you've probably done a great job and it confirms that your communication skills are working. An alternative game you might want to play is Betty Martin's 3-minute game. Betty Martin developed the Wheel of Consent, which if you haven't seen it, go and look it up. But the game, you can Google it. Essentially, it's a quick consent game to help you feel comfortable asking for what you want. I won't go through it now. Google it. Takes 3 minutes, and it's really a great communication game. And then finally, exercise number 7. This is, if you're doing this is the end of week 1, day 7. Reflect on the week activities, discuss what was learned, and planning for the week ahead. Take a look back at the 6 tasks you've both completed. What have you learned about your partner, yourself, and your dynamic? And share it with them. Now, moving on. If you're doing this week by week, this is week 2. This is more about exploration and education. Remember again, this is not something you have to do every week. You can just pick and choose the exercises you want to do. But I'm going through it on the assumption that you're going to be doing 1 exercise a day, even though I know that's not realistic, but you get the point. Okay, exercise number 8, research assignment. Each partner researches a new kink or BDSM aspect to teach the other. Perhaps there was something on the sex menu that you saw and it intrigued you. You've heard me mention something on the podcast and thought, oh, that sounds interesting. I want to know a bit more about that, or that turns me on. I'm going to investigate it. Once you've done the research, it doesn't have to be long. You can take it just a few minutes to Google it or read an article about it, and then share what you've learned with your partner. Exercise 9, sensation play experiment. Explore non-sexual sensation play, focusing on the subs, reactions, and preferences. You can refer back to the sex menu of your submissive partner and see what kind of sensory play they enjoy. And then spend 10 minutes doing that for them. But remember, this is non-sexual. So it could just be massage. It could be a head massage. It could be that they like their feet being massaged. It could be that they like the sensation of having a warm blanket wrapped around them. It could be that they just like your fingers scratching down their back. So it's really about being able to discuss and communicate what you like and what you don't like to your partner. Exercise 10, role reversal. Basically do exactly the same thing where you engage in light role reversal to deepen empathy and understanding of the other person's role. So switch roles and do the same sensation play experiment, except you are now the sub and the sub performs the act on you. Exercise 11, boundary testing. Discuss a possible soft limit and you're going to test this soft limit as long as you, of course, have agreed it with your partner and you have safety measures in place. Once again, look back at your sex menu and have the submissive partner pick 1 item marked as a soft limit, preferably one that Dom also enjoys, and then give that activity a go. Make sure you do this in a low-pressure environment. If one partner feels uncomfortable at any point and wishes to stop, then stop. The aim isn't to make the person fall in love with that activity. It's just to experience the sensation of having a soft limit tested, because in order to do that, you have to really trust your partner. Some people also find it a huge turn on, having their boundaries pushed, and that might be a new kink that you discover. Other people just hate it and they don't want to have any boundary testing at all, and you'll discover that through this. Exercise 12, kink workshop or webinar. Attend a virtual or in-person workshop on a topic of mutual interest. If you live in a city, then you can go onto the events section of FetLife, and there's lots of events there, mostly munches, and you can go and attend one of those. Alternatively, what I like to do is just look on regular apps that show events like talks, And I will search for keywords such as sex or BDSM and go to a talk about that. Maybe it's a research professor or a psychology professor talking about why people like BDSM, that kind of thing. And then failing that, you might be able to find some online workshops to attend if you live outside of a big city and can't find anything in person. For the adventurous, you might want to attend something more extreme, like a swingers club or a kink party, or something in between, like going to a burlesque show. Do some research and pick something that works for both of you. Exercise 13, fantasy sharing. Share a fantasy you've never acted on, discussing the feasibility and mutual interest. This is often easier to do over text. Wano and I often do it like this, sometimes sharing porn videos or images depicting what it is we like. But remember, just because someone has shared a fantasy with you doesn't mean they actually want to do it, which is why it's important to discuss, is this a fantasy which you want to remain a fantasy, or is this a fantasy that you would actually like to do in real life? Because you can have both types of fantasy. Exercise 14. Once again, if you're doing this week by week, this is the end of week 2. So reflect on the week's learnings once again and how what you've learned can be integrated into your dynamic. You've now done 13 different communication exercises. So once again, share with your partner what you've learned about yourself, them, or the dynamic. On to week 3, or exercise 15, which is about deepening that trust and connection. So exercise 15, trust exercises. Perform physical or emotional trust building exercises. For example, a physical one might be blindfold your partner and then leading them around the house. Without sight, they'll have to trust you completely to guide them safely. If you just Google trust exercises online, you'll be able to find a whole list of these kind of exercises and decide which one takes your fancy. Exercise 16, gratitude lists. Write an exchange list of things you appreciate about the other person. It's a super sweet exercise and a reminder that BDSM isn't just about sex, but also about creating a connection with another human being. Exercise 17, surprise day. Each partner plans a surprise gesture or activity for the other, emphasizing thoughtfulness and care. There's not much more I can say about this one. I'll leave it up to you as to how lavish you want the surprise to be. Exercise 18, vulnerability night. Share a personal story or vulnerability that you haven't shared before, focusing on listening and support. If you want some tips, here are some good questions that you might want to ask. How has your upbringing influenced your beliefs about love and relationships? What's your favorite way to connect on a deeper level? And what's your favorite memory of us as a couple? Just some examples, but feel free to create your own questions as well. Exercise 19, DS day out. Spend a day out with elements of your DS dynamic subtly incorporated. This doesn't mean you have to attend a BDSM specific event. This is just about doing everyday things with a kinky twist. For example, perhaps you go out without underwear, or you wear a day collar, or you let your partner lead without knowing where you're going, or that you have them choose food at a restaurant for you, or you have them choose the outfit that you're going to wear for the day. Exercise 20, Aftercare Focus. Have a session with an emphasis on aftercare, discussing what works best for you. As we all know, and if you don't, you now do, aftercare is very, very important. Do you know what your partner needs during aftercare? Do you know when they need it? Do you know how much they need it? Now is the time to find out. And exercise 21, this is the end of week 3, reflection and planning once again. Reflect on how trust has deepened and plan for maintaining this growth. Once again, look back at the past 20 exercises and see what you've learned. Now, I'm hoping as you're listening to this podcast, you are making notes perhaps, or pausing it and discussing with your partner and saying, oh yeah, that exercise sounds great. If you're on your own, just make notes of some of the exercises which you might find useful. And I also plan on putting this list up on my website as well, so you'll be able to go into the articles section and find it there. Finally, week 4, integration and future planning. This is exercise 22, dynamic goal setting. Set goals for your DS relationship for the next 3, 6, and 12 months. Write them down somewhere you both have access to. They might be as simple as, I want to try activity X, or I want to attend at least one munch a month. Munch a month. That was difficult to say. Or it might be something deeper, such as, I want us to experiment with an open relationship and understand if this is something we both feel comfortable with. Exercise 23, contract review / creation. If you already have a DS contract, you can review it. If you don't, you can create a new one that includes your newly discovered limits, roles, and protocols. I've said it before, you don't need a contract if you are into BDSM, but some people find it hot, and it can be hot to create one as an exercise. If that is you, if it appeals to you, then open up a document and get typing. I have some tips, again, on kinkevents.co.uk, so search for BDSM contract on that website, and you'll find some examples and hints of what to put into it. Exercise 24, creative play. Devise a scene that incorporates elements learned or explored over the past few weeks, i.e. the past few exercises. Work together to incorporate items you've enjoyed in the past or things you both want to try. How can you make it the hottest, most intense experience you've both had together? Having done all these communication exercises, you'll probably find even the simplest activity or touch now feels more special and more intense as you are deeply connected to your partner. Exercise 25, self-care day. Each partner focuses on self-care, sharing their experiences and how it benefits their dynamic. How do you de-stress and look after yourself, essentially? Exercise 26, community engagement. Engage with the BDSM community through forums, social media, or local events to gain insights and support. Personally, I really like going on the BDSM subreddits and looking at posts and occasionally contributing some answers. Alternatively, you can go to events or you can find loads of kink educators on social media as well. Exercise 27, legacy letter. Write a letter to each other expressing your hopes and commitments for your dynamic's future. Now, this is a pretty intense one, but so worth it. I won't give you any more instructions as to how to do it, but I'm sure you can figure it out in a way that suits your style. Just make sure your message is authentic and heartfelt. Day 28, or exercise 28 if you're doing it non-sequentially. Celebration session. Celebrate the completion of having done all these exercises, especially if you've been doing one a day. Include a special session that includes your favorite activities and reflections on growth. If you've been doing all these exercises every day, then wow, I'm very proud of you. You have made a substantial effort to improve your relationship. I hope you've noticed positive changes, and if you have, do leave a comment and drop me a message to let me know. It's always great to hear from people when they've enjoyed the content and it's made a real difference in their lives. And then finally, days 29 to 30. This is a bit of a cheat because it's actually just one exercise. So we'll call it exercise 29. Reflection and relaxation again. Spend these 2 days, in fact, relaxing together, reflecting on the past month, discussing how to integrate the discoveries you've made into your dynamic. And finally, reward yourself with 2 days. You know, whatever it is that you feel like doing. Perhaps you want a mini spa break combined with evenings of hot sex, or maybe that's just what I enjoy. So there it is. Those are the 29/30 exercises, depending on how you do it. I hope you found these exercises useful, regardless of whether you did them all, or you did them in order, or you did just one or two, regardless of whether you're into a DS dynamic or not. Remember to adjust the activities, make them your own, and you can adjust the intensity to match your dynamic experience levels and interests. But do try at least some of them. Do give them a go. Don't just listen to this podcast and then go, yeah, those exercises sound cool, and never do them. They only really work if you do them. So some of them take literally a couple of minutes. Some of them, of course, take longer. But try them out. See what happens. I'm really positive that you will notice a real sense of connection, a deepening of that connection with your partner if you do them. And that, in turn, will lead to a better sex life and a better DS dynamic. If you've liked this, please subscribe, follow us on Spotify, and head over to kinkyevents.co.uk, where we have loads of articles about DS and improving your sex life and incorporating BDSM into that part of your life, should you wish. So until next time, lots of love and spanks, and see you soon.
You're listening to Chief from kinkyevents.co.uk, helping you create the dom sub dynamic you've always fantasized about.